Let's get stuck in to Chelsea, Rory. Brentford have now won more games at Stamford Bridge under Thomas the Frank engine since April than both Pochettino and Lampard combined. I mean, that's quite incredible, really, isn't it? Where did it all go wrong for them against Brentford at the weekend?
Oh, I really don't know. I think if I could answer that, I would be in a very highly paid job at Chelsea because
they're hiring anyone at the moment,
it's
mate.
It's very difficult to pinpoint where it went wrong when it went wrong everywhere. You know, if you were to try and say, well, this is what we did wrong. You know, even with Manchester United, for example, although it was like totally disastrous, you can identify why it was so bad. Whereas at Chelsea, it just feels like we are totally devoid of any sort of team unity. We are totally devoid of any leadership on the pitch. And that is because everybody on the pitch is about 21 years old. The second that Mauricio Pochettino is without Enzo Fernandez, he doesn't have an answer to that issue. I think the responsibility of a manager in certain situations is to manage awkward situations. And Enzo Fernandez not being available means that Mauricio Pochettino should be making use of his squad and coming up with a solution to that problem. I just don't really know where we go from here because losing to Brentford is just totally unacceptable, isn't it? You know, it's all very like Brentford haven't had a good season. You know, they're not. It's not the Brentford. You know when they were, a few years ago where they were surprising a lot of people
with Tony and doing well. Yeah, it's not the same team.
No, it's not. They
had one win in 9 before that game.
Exactly, and I think that was Fulham, by the way, in August.
Yeah.
So no, we are completely and utterly all over the place, but the club is a shambles. You know, when you think about the heritage of Chelsea, and you can go like, maybe Frank Lampard, Didier Drogba, go further back to Peter Osgood. This club, the club of today, is just a shadow of its former self. It's horrible. It's
so funny that you mentioned, obviously, as you say, everyone on the pitch is about 19, 20 years old. And do you think there's now, within that squad, within those players, become a kind of acceptance, and weirdly mainly at home sometimes, that it's Brentford turn up or Nottingham Forest turn up and they're kind of like, yeah, we might lose this today. There's no fear factor at all.
No, but that's because we have the most lopsided squad ever assembled in the history of football. Like, if you think about the players that Chelsea have, if you think about the players that Mauricio Pochettino is able to call upon, like there's probably not even 1,000 games experience between the 11 players that started. And if you take Thiago Silva out of the team, there's certainly not 1,000. You've got 11 players. There isn't 1,000 games between them. That's what Chelsea are looking at. So of course, a team that comes with a game plan, under a good manager, with an identity, with a belief, of course they'll find it easy to frustrate Chelsea, because Chelsea as a club don't really have the experience. These group of players doesn't really have the experience of breaking down teams that are built like this. Yeah,
exactly. It's Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle away, Brighton, and Manchester United to come now as well, Rory. Just how much fear have you got for this run coming up? And I mean, is it going to get worse before it gets better, do you think?
I don't think it can get much worse than winning 1 out of 13 at home, can it? I mean, it could become 1 out of 14. But then, do you know what I think then happens? Then it becomes almost irrelevant. Basically, it's whether we've won 1 out of 13 or whether we've won 1 out of 23. It just is totally unacceptable as it is, and it becomes embarrassing regardless of how long it goes on for. Like, we are clearly in the mire, and I think that these 5 games, if they go as I think the majority of people assume that they will, I think that Chelsea as a club could be the patience could be tested with Mauricio Pochettino, and I think that the fans, remember, Chelsea fans don't really. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to speak for an entire fan base, of course, and I'm not doing that. I will talk for not the general consensus of Chelsea fans, but just the general consensus of my Chelsea WhatsApp group.
Which is what you
which is a group of season ticket holders who are indicative of the direction that the club is going in. All season ticket holders in various parts of the ground. Yeah. As a group,
what do they think? Go on.
As a group, don't really like Pochettino. We hope it works. We kind of want him to do well. We're desperate for him to succeed.
Well, anything, yeah. But because it's been so bad.
You know when it's this bad. You know when we give up a 2-goal lead to Arsenal.
Yeah.
immediately the first word on everyone's lips is, well, that's a Tottenham performance. Tottenham. Pochettino's Tottenham, isn't it? We're becoming Tottenham. This is the problem with appointing a Tottenham manager. This is the problem with appointing a Tottenham manager who couldn't win a trophy with a wonderful team. This is Tottenham.
It kind of won't leave him, will it?
No.
That tag at all. And also, can I just ask you quickly, because the general consensus I would say in the media as well with Pochettino is, well, he's taking over a bit of a basket case. They spent £1 billion, but the transfer policy is so bad that he's just got a load of young players, but he's the man to mould them together. What have you actually made, watching Chelsea week in, week out, of Pochettino as a manager?
I think he's been making some terrible mistakes, but I also think he's the best thing about the club in a footballing sense as soon as you go above the players. So when you think about the people involved in the club that have some sway, that have some guidance with the direction that the club is going in, the person that should be listened to first and foremost is Mauricio Pochettino. It's not Pochettino's fault that the club assembled a squad with such haste that they forgot to sign a striker. It's not Pochettino's fault that he'd been given Armando Broja and Nicholas Jackson to lead the line, neither of whom are Premier League quality.
But that aside, what about him as a manager with the tools he's got?
No, he's been making some terrible errors. He has been making some drastic errors. If you look across virtually every Chelsea performance, he has been responsible for the things that have gone wrong in that performance. It isn't always about the players. Look, his job would be a lot easier if Nicholas Jackson could hit a barn door, but he can't. So maybe it's his responsibility to not play him.
His movement's so bad, Jackson, as well, isn't it?
No, because that's the thing with him. He's not... those strikers that perhaps don't score as frequently as you would hope, but you can make a real case for them. Bring other players into play, and play with his back to goal and a nuisance to play against, and brings out the best in the midfield, whatever. He ain't that. He ain't that.
Nope.
So do you know what I honestly think with him? I think that he's a championship player. He may become a Premier League player, but genuinely, players playing in the championship are better than him, aren't they? Like, Iheanacho is a better centre forward than Nicholas Jackson, isn't he? Jamie Vardy is a better centre. They're both playing in the championship.
But that's Leicester. They're top of the championship. They're absolutely flying. They're going to get promoted. Nicholas Jackson is better than some of the strikers in the Premier League. He is.
Okay, let's play a game.
Cameron Archer.
Is he? Is he? Why is he? Based upon what? What is he better at? I mean, he's incredible. Nicholas Jackson, from what we know of him,
it's quite hard to tell.
He's
Sheffield United never get into the opposition box, so it's quite hard to tell.
Exactly. Like, Nicholas Jackson, remember, he's got players like Cole Palmer and Raheem Sterling providing him with opportunity. And he is possibly, with the exception of maybe Timo Werner, he is probably the most profligate striker I've ever seen.
He does miss chance after chance, doesn't he?
No, Ollie, not chance. Sitter. Sitter after sitter. Like, miss. You know some of those chances where it's easier to score?
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it falls for you and you just put it into the net. And then it's the scale with which he misses.
Yeah. So, just quickly, can I just get this straight? You're saying that you would rather have Iheanacho up front for Chelsea right now?
Of course. I mean, I don't want Iheanacho up front either. But of course I would rather Iheanacho up front than Nicholas Jackson. Of course.
Really?
That's not controversial, is it?
Iheanacho. He's not been great, mate.
No. Sorry, the point isn't Iheanacho. The point is Jackson. The point is Jackson isn't going to score. Iheanacho might.
Well, yeah, he won't miss sitter after sitter. Do it again. I like the way you said sitter just now.
I don't even know. How did I
sitter?
Did I emphasise? I italicise the sitter. But look, let's just. I don't want Pochettino sacked, really. I don't think that's the best for the club. But I think that if Chelsea pick up no points out of the next 5 games, I don't see how he keeps his job. It isn't about what I want. I just think that it will become an incredibly unpalatable job for him to want to remain in. And I think that the crowd will turn. It will become so poisonous at Stamford Bridge that he probably won't be that welcomed anyway.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.